Just recently, I was on my way back from a trip where I played D&D solo on an airplane. I'm Michael Putlak from Night Noon Games, and I want to show you how I did it and teach you how to do the same thing on your next flight. So the backstory here is I was about to get on a long flight. It was scheduled for 8 hours, but it lasted 14. That's a whole other story. I'd been craving D&D since I'd been out of town and I hadn't played for about a week and a half. I'd brought my gaming supplies with me just in case I'd had the chance to play on my trip, so I kind of figured, why the hell not? I'll give it a try on my flight home. To be clear, I'm kind of using D&D in that generic way that stands in for all fantasy tabletop role-playing games. I wasn't technically playing the Hasbro Wizards of the Coast game called Dungeons & Dragons, but I was playing a fantasy tabletop role-playing game that I have been loving called Shadowdark RPG. If you haven't heard about Shadowdark, it's a new game that was kickstarted in early 2023 by Kelsey Dion at the Arcane Library. It's an awesome mix of old and new school D&D, and it's just so easy to pick up and play, even if you've only played 5e before. Because of its pick up and play ability, it also makes a great system to try solo role-playing with for the first time, if you haven't done that previously. If you want to check out the game for yourself, which I strongly encourage that you do, the 2 totally free Kickstart guides are available as PDFs, and they have everything you need to get you up and running. They each have 68 pages, and they're all just packed with good stuff, including a 27-room dungeon crawl. It's enough stuff to keep you playing for a long time without ever having to pay a dime. I've put a link to those free Shadowdark PDFs down in the video description below. Go check it out. I had secretly wanted to try to sneak in some D&D with my friends during our trip, so I had some of my supplies on hand. But if you're going to play on an airplane, you're going to want to make sure that you have your supplies ready to go beforehand. Here's a picture of how it looked for me. Since my flight was a long one, I had paid for extra legroom, which meant there wasn't a seat in front of me. I actually think this may have made things a little bit harder for me since I didn't have a seat back pocket to put things in. It did make it a lot easier on my legs though. I'm a tall guy. Because I'm not quite so nerdy to actually film me doing anything on a plane, I'm just taping off the size of a standard tray table, which is 16.5 by 10.5 inches, to recreate the experience. Apologies if you're stuck with one of those ridiculously small tables on Frontier. Seriously, those things are awful. Here's everything that I had brought along. I packed a pencil pouch that had pencils, pens, and highlighters if I needed them. This is something I kept on my lap, but would have probably put it in the seat back pouch if I had had one. I had a notebook for taking notes, making doodles, and I even rolled up an entire village in the air. More on this later. My notebook was either on top of or beneath my iPad, depending on what I needed at a given moment. I also had my character sheets for the 2 characters I was playing, and I'd also brought some blank ones since I knew that I wanted to add another member to the party. These I just put on my tray table or on top of other flat items when I was playing. I also had my phone, which had an Oracle app downloaded on it. If you're unfamiliar with solo role-playing, an Oracle stands in for a game master, so you can still be surprised by what happens in the game. The Oracle system I really like is the Mythic Game Master Emulator. They have their own Android app that's just $5, and I've linked below. The creator is also working on an iPhone app too, so hopefully that'll be coming out soon. There are some free Oracle apps out there as well, so if you just do a little digging in your app store, I'm sure you can find one. I kept my phone in my pocket and just pulled it out whenever I needed the Oracle, but this would have probably gone in my seat back pouch had I had one. I also brought along my dice and dice tray. These were set on my tray table. If you're afraid your die is going to end up a few rolls behind you because you just roll so aggressively, it's easy enough to get a dice rolling app on your phone too. If I had used a dice rolling app on my phone, it would have probably also saved some space on the tray table. So maybe that would be a better way to go about it, especially if you're flying Frontier. Personally, I just love rolling math rocks. Finally, I brought a tablet with me that had the Shadowdark rulebook and a few other PDFs that I downloaded in preparation. This also sat on the tray table. You could also use your phone instead of a tablet if you don't have one, or if you wanted to, you could even bring the physical rulebook along with you. Just make sure if you're going to use your tablet or phone with PDFs, that you have all of those downloaded before you board your plane. I had the Shadowdark core rules and supplements ready, as well as some mini adventures that I had received as part of the Kickstarter campaign. How'd it go? Well, I gotta tell you, once I got everything set up, I had a great time. The place where I had left off in my adventure previously, my 2 characters in the party escaping with an NPC from the NPC's house that was being raided by berserkers in the middle of the night. I knew that I had wanted to add that NPC to the party, so using Shadowdark's simple rules, I was even able to roll up that character on the plane, including backstory and everything else. I'm working on another Shadowdark character creation video, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Hey, you can even just subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon to get notified when that's live. So, just as the characters had nearly escaped, the 3 of them had to face off against 3 drunk berserkers. It was really difficult for them since there are only 2 level 2 characters and 1 level 1 character, but they prevailed and even got some cool insights as to why the berserkers were there. More on that in just a second. This is a bit of a tangent here, But one of my favorite things about solo role-playing in general is how things just kind of happen in the randomness, and you see connections that you can just pull together to build honest-to-goodness story threads that make sense. It's so cool. For instance, for this new character, I had rolled Cult Initiate as their background. Earlier, I had also rolled for what mini-adventure that I wanted to play through. The die picked Sanctum of the Elephant God for me. That mini-adventure is all about cultists. So I figured I'd tie these 2 points together, and I decided that the reason the Berserkers were banging down this person's door was because they were hired by the cult from Sanctum of the Elephant Gods to bring this ex-cult member back into the cults. I just thought that was pretty cool. Once the characters did escape, I was able to use the Shadowdark rules to roll up an entire village. Again, still on an airplane, and have my priest character have a cool encounter when paying penance at the local temple. If you're interested in world building using Shadowdark roll tables, I made another video on that. There's a link somewhere up here. Playing Shadowdark on an airplane was so much fun, and it didn't even take that much work to set up and prepare for it. One thing that I was kind of hoping was that someone walking to the bathroom or whatever would notice me playing and ask me about it, so then I could sing the praises of Shadowdark, but unfortunately, that didn't happen. Maybe it'll happen when you try it out. Maybe your seat buddy will want to play with you too. I know you can be playing too next time you're 30,000 feet in the air, if you just put in a little forethought. I'm talking about 15 minutes of work here. You got this. If you have any questions about playing solo on an airplane, or if you think there's maybe something I missed, go ahead and ask down below in the comments. If you are interested in more videos from Night Noon Games, subscribe to the channel. To find more of my games and supplements, including things that I'm making for Shadowdark, check out nightnoon.games. You can also like Night Noon Games on social media. All the links for those are below in the description. Also in the description is a link to sign up for the Night Noon Games mailing list. Just for signing up, I'll send you a free gift. It's a book of lore written from the perspective of a turtlefolk monk who has spent his entire life dedicated to the study of dragon turtles. I've had a lot of fun writing that, and I think it's pretty cool. The lore is system agnostic, so you can just plug it into any fantasy campaign. Until our next adventure, stay inspired and keep those dice rolling. Thanks for watching.